Hey everybody, this is Nerd Bomber here, one of the co-hosts of the Online Warriors podcast. Our weekly podcast started as a way for three friends to keep in touch and discuss their passion for movies, gaming, technology, and entertainment. And since then, we've grown into a fantastic online community. Every Wednesday, we release a new episode discussing the latest nerdy news, and then we go hands-on with our weekly adventures and a fun trivia show. Sound interesting? Check us out on every podcast platform, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or hit us up at onlinewarriorspodcast.com.
Hi there, I'm Lloyd.
And I'm John, and we're from Pina Comics. As we dive into your favorite pop culture topics, we may just
Occasionally
use language that could be considered
globaloney.
What? No, I mean...
Oh, foul.
Exactly. Offensive.
No doubt. Crass.
You bet your ass.
Sophisticated.
What? No. Anyways, you get it by now. It's mostly just
gutter talk.
And one more thing. Watch out for spoilers. Sometimes we drop them like trousers. You've been warned.
Listen in.
Some films are destined to be known as pure trash, whether through bad critical reviews, poor audience scores, or even troubled productions. These films live with the brand of being terrible. We here at The Pint know that all of these films cannot be as bad as reputed. Some are actually just so-so, while others are actually pretty good. Our mission? Watch these films and determine if they deserve their legacy of awfulness and report our findings back to you. This is Trash, Tolerable, or Treasure.
Lori, stop, sweetie, stop. It's Sheriff Brackett. Lori, give me the gun. That's it. Just give me the gun. That's it. Easy, sweetie, easy.
I killed him. The man. I climbed in the wall. I fell.
Okay, all right, sweetie.
I killed him.
It's okay.
I killed him.
It's all right. I want you to come with me, okay?
My wife cannot hum that song.
Your wife can't.
She can't. She can't do that. She always ends up going do 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 do, and it's like it's not that happy.
Yeah. Well, if you can't tell here on Pina Comics, we're talking about Halloween, and this is our Halloween episode. This is coming out right around Halloween of 2020, otherwise known as another day in COVID time. If you do choose tonight or whenever Halloween is to take your kids out or to trick or treat or go to a party, pretty please with sugar on top. Just be safe. That's our message here from The Pint. Just you're going to wear a mask anyway. Wear a mask.
Wear a mask under your mask.
Under your mask, exactly.
Extra mask up.
That's a good one.
I have to ask you guys, because I don't know if this is just me or like when this all started, like back around St. Patrick's Day when they were like, shit's closing down.
Right.
In any reality, you think like Halloween's going to come and we're still going to be like this?
No.
Did you guys just assume like by Halloween, you guys would be recording in person again?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you listen to older episodes when we first started this, we would talk about like, Larry was going to do his show in June, that was postponed from April. And then it became August. And then August became, it's not happening,
Yeah.
And, at that time, I mean, there was a lot of talk like that. Like, when this is all done in June, when the summer comes, when the warm weather hits and kills it.
It'll just magically go away.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
when this hit, we had plane tickets to fly down to South Carolina in July. And I was fully expecting that we were going to go, right up until we didn't go.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, you get into this thing, oh, God, this is turning into more like we're still in October talking about COVID. But it just comes to this point where, like, we're still saying, oh, when this is over, we'll do this. And it's like, boy, we've been saying when this is over for 6 months now, 7 months.
Yes, we have. All right, Stu, you're depressing me. So you heard.
Sorry.
You heard Andrew Morgan at the beginning, which means this is it's one of two things. This is not a Pint Movie Invitational. This is our Halloween episode of Trash, Tolerable, or Treasure. You know what we do on these. We take a movie that's much maligned, we discuss it, and we each determine whether we think this thing truly earns its trash reputation, isn't so bad, aka tolerable, or hey, I fucking love that thing, treasure. And since it is Halloween, we went with what I can only describe as maybe being, if it's not the most loathed in the Halloween franchise or universe, it is in the top 3. You could easily say Resurrection.
A lot of people, I will defend it to the death. It's one of my favorites, but a lot of people think 5 is the worst.
5 is terrible.
Oh, that's so sad.
We saw last year when COVID didn't ruin the world, Larry showed Halloween 4 and 5 as a double feature.
Yeah.
And we went to that, and I hadn't seen either in a long time. And 4 is very much an enjoyable, 80s slasher movie. And 5 is just fucking awful. I remember saying to Larry afterwards, like, you wouldn't expect that much of a dichotomy between two movies that were made a year apart. Mm-hmm. But man, one is a fairly enjoyable, middling slasher film, and the other is Halloween 5. But this is in the Rob Zombie universe. This is Halloween 2. We're going to get into a bunch of the stuff, cast and box office. But this one, people just fucking despise. And I think I know why, but we'll get into that. So with us tonight, of course, if you haven't heard yet, is the Manster who can't go to South Carolina. Manster, what else is going on, man?
My internet is so bad now. Ever since we had an event, we got new internet, and it sucks, and it keeps going in and out. So you may have to bear with me a little bit.
Okay,
we've been dealing with this for a while. But you know what? I'm enjoying the rain.
Well, it's not raining.
A cool
here.
thing to say usually. Well, not at the moment, but it's been raining.
Oh, yeah.
It has been raining.
In life, he's enjoyed the rain as he's aged. It's getting nice.
It did rain all day today until about when I came home. But much needed rain. We're probably still about 12 feet short on the year. But
the wet rain.
Yes, the wet rain.
And before we get into Halloween 2, we got to talk about Halloween Stu. We got Stu with us. Now, let's just get into it, because I think this is probably a good segue for you. Things are different now. Like,
things are different.
So
we've grown. We've evolved.
What has happened,
as
Stu?
the Pokemon. So previously I've always been with Ghost of the Stratosphere, our Pittsburgh-based podcast with Andy and Chad and I, but circumstances have come over the last few months where we have gone our separate ways. And if I had any knowledge on what Andy or Chad might be doing right now, I would say, go to what their things are. But I don't really know what they're doing these days. But for me, I have moved on to my own website, my own projects. It is SWO Productions for the Stu World Order, because I am original. The Stu World Order, if anybody wants a terrible backstory, dates back to whenever I was in high school. My buddies and I, every single Monday night, would get together and watch wrestling. And it would invariably just become the four of us just beating the crap out of each other. And so we determined I was the leader of the group, and we were the Stu World Order, modeled out obviously after the New World Order at the time. And I don't know if you remember from wrestling, I don't think you were watching in those eras, but they had T-shirts that they would cut the entire sleeves and sides off of, so it just kind of hung over you like a towel with a head hole.
Okay.
And so we got T-shirts, and we cut those apart, and we just wore them like that and just wore them around. We had Stu World Order shirts.
So it ties into your past. That's cool.
Yes.
All right.
So that's my website. Is not me talking about how my friends and I would beat the crap out of each other all the time, but it should be. I think that would be a really good article. I'm going to write it now.
There you go. Write it up after this. Give us your full attention. Yeah, give us your full attention for about an hour or so. So I pretty much me at this point, although my buddy Grant is involved. He does a lot of articles he reviews every episode of Sailor Moon. He reviews every Disney movie, and he's going to do some like RPG style articles coming up. And then I do
Pop-Tart Quest, as I always have. I do my Stu's Reviews comic books, as I always have. I love doing lists, top 10s, top 5s, and I'm still going to carry forward on a monthly basis. I'm going to interact with you guys or other podcasts that we're buddies with on Twitter and do like an article series. Maybe we'll do them for the whole week now, or it'll be me and 6 other people tackling a topic every month.
All right, so you've evolved.
That's good. It sounds like something you want to do. Yes.
It is. I enjoy it a lot. And I am not a technically proficient person at all. And John, I mean, I talked to you throughout the process, and God bless Lloyd has been a lifesaver with any level of graphic design, because I have none. But Lloyd has made me icons and banners and pictures for everything. And I've talked to you through the process where it's like setting up a web page for me was just a perpetual 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I would think I figured something out, and then I didn't. But I really enjoy it. I enjoy getting to go in, because previously Andy ran the website at Got Stratosphere, and he just did everything, and we'd tell him what we wanted, but he did it. And now I'm actually going in and making shit. And
and it looks good. It really does look good. Good interface, easy to find stuff. I've been checking it out on my lunch breaks, and I do like the Stu World Order, and
I appreciate that.
Pina Comics got a nice little shout out there on the Friends of the Order. So
Friends of the Order page. Yep.
I don't know if I get pulled over by a cop in Pittsburgh if I can show them your logo.
Right, we got a special badge.
Yeah.
Get out ticket free.
Friends of the Order. I gotta go. Check that out. Stu World Order. What's the Twitter handle for that?
The Twitter handle is SWO Productions. The website is swoproductions.com. I'm working on getting an Instagram, because I created SWO Productions on Instagram and then I accidentally deleted it. So I think I have to wait. I think I have to wait 30 days until it clears all the way out to recreate it, because I can't find a way to like undelete. Like I said, not technically savvy.
It takes time. I'm not all the way there yet either. All right. Let's get into the subject of tonight's film, or tonight's episode. As I mentioned, this one is pretty maligned. People don't like this one very much. Halloween 2. This came out strangely on August 28th, 2009. I saw this in the theaters. Weird. Yeah. I saw this in the theaters, and I remember thinking even then, why is a Halloween film coming out in the summer? Who knows? This was directed and written by one gentleman named Rob Zombie, who has directed and written other films like 31, House of a Thousand Corpses, and he did direct the first Halloween remake as well. So he did both of these. This thing was filmed in and around mostly Georgia, Decatur, Atlanta, some stuff filmed in LA, and something I didn't know, New Milford, Connecticut, for some reshoots, which makes sense because Rob Zombie did live at one point in, I think, Plainville, Connecticut, or Prospect, in that area.
New Milford's nowhere near Plainville.
No, but I mean, it gives you the Connecticut connection, I guess. Yeah.
I dated a girl from New Milford.
Like everything in Connecticut isn't right next to everything else in Connecticut.
Well, hey, for us, New Milford is like 45 minutes. That's
a long drive.
That's almost in New York. I'll give you a little bit before we get into cast, Rotten Tomatoes, all that stuff. I'm going to give you a little bit of info on this thing. So Zombie made the Halloween remake, which came out in 2007 and was a pretty big hit. Okay. He did not want to come back and make the second one. So his initial answer to the producers was nope. So they were going to hire a couple of French directors. I had the names. I forgot to write them down. They made, I think Larry's talked about it before, a movie called Inside. Those two guys were going to make Halloween 2. And at the last minute, Zombie, after spending a year away from the Halloween franchise and cooling off and probably going on tour with his band, decided that if he could get a little bit more control over the content, he was willing to do it. So the producer, Malek Akkad, basically agreed and encouraged him to make this his own thing, to essentially, as they put, take all the John Carpenter-ness out of Halloween. So in the first one, in the remake, which is largely half origin story of Michael Myers and then half pretty, I don't want to say exact remake of Halloween, but it's basically an origin story for half of the movie, and then the last 45 minutes is Halloween condensed, right? Yeah. So but there's a lot of John Carpenter in there. Right, and you said you just watched this recently, right, Lloyd? The first one?
Yes. Yeah, I just watched because the only one I have ever seen of the Rob Zombie films was the first one, and that was a while ago, so I didn't remember much. But when I put it on, I certainly remembered the boy and the backstory and all that stuff. I had never seen Halloween 2.
Okay.
So this was my first viewing of Halloween 2, and I actually watched it 2 times. The first time, I can tell you right now, I really didn't like it.
Well, don't tell us. Don't tell us what.
That was the first time.
All right.
Things
All right.
might have changed this
Maybe.
time, but
Maybe. Let's not get excited. So they give him the opportunity to make it. And I kind of liken this almost to the same thing that happened with Tim Burton and Batman Returns. They basically said to Rob Zombie, just turn your Rob Zombie up on this thing and make it your own. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people don't like this movie is because it goes, it literally takes a fucking sharp left away from John Carpenter, Halloween, what we know as Halloween. This thing takes a severe fucking turn from what we know in the originals. So this thing had a $15 million budget. So that's what we're starting at. Lloyd will get into the box office numbers, but I don't know if he had this listed. Do you have the re-release in October listed?
The re-release? No.
Okay. So before Lloyd, we'll jump right into box office. Before Lloyd jumps into that, this was released on August 28th. They re-released it 2 months later to take advantage of the Halloween season. And it only made, but for a large release, it made less than $500,000. So it didn't do what they thought it would do coming out at Halloween as well. Lloyd, why don't you go through some of the box office so we could see and get kind of an idea of what this competed against, what might have come out right around it, and what might have formulated people's opinions. Like, oh, well, this is better. I'm going to go check this out. Maybe something great horror came out and totally left this in the dust.
Well, we got the 16.3 million on the opening weekend. That was August 28th to 30th was the weekend. And this one came in at number 3 for the weekend. So the top 5 was, number 5 was G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I never saw any of those.
Me neither. I'm not a G.I. Joe guy.
Goofy. The first G.I. Joe is kind of goofy fun. And the second one, they tried to make it less cartoony. And they did. Neither one's great. I enjoy a lot of things about both of them, but they're both very middling movies. Nothing to seek out.
Just middling. So number 4 that year is, I don't know if this is maybe a split kind of thing. District 9.
Yeah.
Did you like that one?
You love it.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Yeah, I like that too.
I've only seen it once. I think I saw it in theaters. I haven't seen it since then, but it's really well acted. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it holds up too. I've seen it. I saw it in the theaters, and I've seen it a few times since. It's really good.
Yep. Number 3, like we said, Halloween 2. Number 2, a great movie, Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
I just watched that in the COVID times for the first time. I went through a little stretch of Tarantino movies, and I think it turned out that was my favorite Tarantino movie.
I love Tarantino, and I've still yet to see Once Upon a Time. Inglourious Bastards is in my top 5. It is so.
Well, he only
good.
has 9?
Well, but
it's top half.
I don't want to. It's not 1 or 2 for sure.
Okay.
It might not even be top 3. But of all of his if you were to take Inglourious, Django, Hateful Eight, those kind of movies, it's the best to me. I get it. That's a weird rating.
Yeah.
It's a weird rating, but
I don't know. I'd put it above those. I mean, I think it's in the next level.
Yeah, no, I'm saying it's the head of the next level. Yeah. I can't say to me it's not better than Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction or even Kill Bill. Those are the ones that push it out of being a little further up, but that's a great movie.
Yeah, it is. Number 1 that weekend, The Final Destination.
Oh, so
the Final Destination?
That was the 6th or 7th.
I was going to say, okay.
I have no idea. I've never seen it.
No,
I think I've seen the first one of those, and
I saw the first 2, I think, or 3, and that was it. That was enough.
I think the preview of the first one was enough for me.
Yeah. All right, so that was the weekend.
That was the weekend. So for the year 2009, Halloween did come in at number 84.
Oh, poor Halloween.
And now you know why there's never been a Halloween 3, or at least that Halloween 3.
So number 10 that year was Sherlock Holmes,
Okay.
200 mil. Number 9, Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Squeakquel. I know John saw that.
No.
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 Number 8, The Blind Side,
Yeah.
Oh, okay. With Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock. Yep. Number 7, Star Trek. I didn't realize this was just called Star Trek. I thought there was a little
Oh, okay.
subtitle, but Star Trek, the first one of the J.J. Abrams.
Yep, just Star Trek.
Star Trek
number
lens
6.
flare.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that one. Number 6, The Hangover.
Okay. It's
Wow.
weird, like even just 11 years out, hearing all these movies came out in the same year, because I would not have placed. I still think The Hangover was newer than 2009. That's weird.
That was a big movie. That
Mhm.
movie that was like the number 1 R-rated movie of all time at one point. Comedy. I don't know if it still is, but that was huge.
And it was funny.
The first one was funny.
The
Yes.
first
Yeah.
one, yeah.
Yeah.
Number 5, this one will make John cry every time. Up.
Oh yeah.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Sad stuff.
Yeah, I watched
Yeah.
that with my wife, and we got like 15 or 20 minutes in, where like the movie has spent 15 or 20 minutes just punching you in the stomach, and then our power went out, and we were like, are we even going to finish this movie? I don't even know if I want to finish it now.
In all reality, you don't have to, because that is a movie, and I know people look at things with, nostalgic eyes. That is a movie that really, that 115-minute sequence is as good as anything Pixar's ever done.
Yes.
The rest of the movie is kind of
okay.
It's kind of forgettable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, prime stuff, though. This one will make me cry every time because it's so bad, which I've never seen, so I can't really say that. The Twilight Saga, New Moon.
Never saw it.
Okay. Yeah, I've never seen any of
never
those
seen
movies.
any. Yeah. Number 3, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince.
Oh, that wasn't good. That was my favorite book of the series and probably my least favorite movie.
Yeah. Number 2, Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen.
Oh, the second one. Yeah.
Number 2. In my head, I just assumed that like immediately after the first one, everyone washed their hands of that series. But it came in number 2, so I guess not.
No, there's like 9 more after that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know like people, they kept coming out, but I didn't think they were still like, movies that would come up to number 2 in a year that late. But yeah. I guess.
And number 1, can you guess? John's usually
No.
pretty good at guessing.
2009.
2009.
I'll give it a quick shot. 2009. I would have said The Hangover because that was so fucking big. 2009.
This was pretty big.
It's number 1, I would assume.
So
but yeah.
big, there's probably going to be 5 more of them coming.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Oh, fuck.
Avatar.
It's gonna make Avatar look avatarded. No, thanks. You can go hang out on the blue moon of unobtainium, and I'll stay here. Enjoy yourself. And by the way, when you plug your tail into your girlfriend and then into your horse, explain that to me. Gross. So that at least gives us an idea of some of the competition that Halloween 2, or H2 as it's shown in a lot of promos, went up against. Now let's talk a little bit about who is in this thing. Lloyd, who's the cast? Let's talk about who we like in this cast. What did Zombie put together for a cast in this?
Well, there's a lot to talk about in the cast. A lot of small stuff, actually. But the main cast, you got Malcolm McDowell as Dr. Samuel Loomis. He was just a piece of shit in this movie.
I don't know why he was in this movie. Nothing changes if you just don't include him in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just seems like a way to get away from like Laurie is, I guess, the main character of this movie, and she's super manic. So I think every once in a while you've got to change viewpoints so that your main character isn't just like crying and screaming the whole time, and that's why and so then you go from her being very manic to him being a super cunt, and you kind of bounce back. But you're absolutely right, Stu. You could edit his parts out of this movie totally.
Yeah, nothing changes.
Nothing changes. Yeah.
Then you got in this one Tyler Mane as Michael Myers.
Sabretooth.
Yes. And both of these, the top few people here, they all came from the first movie of his too, Halloween.
Tyler Mane, real quick, I want to point out, the reason Tyler Mane looks the way he does in this movie with the giant beard and the long hair, which you think is a weird look for Michael Myers, is that in between Halloween and Halloween 2, when Zombie was looking at doing other things, he had a long gestating project called Tyrannosaurus Rex that he wanted to do. And there's concept art out there you could find online. And Tyrannosaurus Rex was going to be this kind of like very 70s pulpy movie about this like underground street boxer called Tyrannosaurus Rex, who, if you look at the concept art, it's Tyler Mane with the giant beard and hair. So Tyler Mane was training and getting ready to film that. And through machinations, the movie fell apart and they didn't do it. But Zombie told Tyler Mane that he thought he looked so fucking aggressive and kind of like it added a layer of like craziness to an intimidation fact. Because that's, you know, the thing with this Michael Myers is Michael Myers in the original series is a normal sized, very intimidating guy because he's silent. He's a killing machine. He's spooky as fuck. You don't need him to be Tyler Mane. But when you go into this universe and add the factor that he's a fucking muscle-bound giant, I will say it does add. It doesn't take away from Michael Myers in the other movies.
No, I just said he's a whole new beast. I mean, he's a sledgehammer in the dark.
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
that's what he is.
I would be super afraid of regular universe Michael Myers. But with regular universe Michael Myers, I might feel like if I got on top of him, I had a chance. With Tyler Mane, I'm like, oh, fuck. I am so fucked with this guy.
Your only chance is to flee.
He's 6'8". That's how big he is. He's 6'8".
It takes 6 regular guys to carry him.
Yeah. Well, no. Well, I don't know.
5 guys and a woman.
5 guys and a woman. Now,
all right.
Before we get back to the cast, I want to bring this up real quick because I think this goes towards our rating at the end. The version that I watched for us to do this, I didn't realize it until afterwards, is the unrated director's cut. I watched the unrated director's cut, which is 14 minutes longer. It's 119 minutes versus 105 minutes. Now, I have seen in the theater, the theatrical cut, and I saw it on TV at one point years ago. I went online and I looked up all the little differences so I can still formulate whether the original theatrical cut was trash. But there might be some things that, like when we just brought up the 5 guys and 1 girl, I think I read that line's not in the theatrical cut.
Oh, okay.
So, Lloyd, when you watched it, and those 2 guys in the beginning, the 2 EMTs, we're saying it took 6 guys to carry him in. Does the other guy correct him and say 5 guys and 1 woman?
You know, I really, I don't remember.
I think I read.
I'm glad you. Yeah, it sounded like 6 guys to me. I don't remember hearing the correction.
Yeah, so I think I read that was one of the things they added in the director's cut for whatever reason. I don't know why.
That's highly integral to the plot.
But I'm glad you brought that up because when I watched this, as I said, I watched it twice. So what I did was I don't own it, and it's not really streaming anywhere. So I went to my local library and I picked up the theatrical cut release of a DVD.
Okay,
less libraries.
And then I love libraries. And then when I watched it later, it was actually showing on the Paramount network. So I was in a different room. I was on a computer and I watched it there. Totally different ending.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So you've seen them both then. Yeah.
We'll get into that. We're only going to factor in the theatrical, but we could talk about that. Who's next on the list?
I was going to say I've only seen the director's cut. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
I've never seen the theatrical. The only version I've ever had has been the director's cut, and the only version of the original I've ever seen, I think, was the director's cut.
One of the things I read was that in the 14-minute difference, the violence is not different in the director's cut. The violence in a whole thing is the same in the theatrical cut. Everything that's different is dialogue, scenes are longer, but they made it a point to say that like it's not like this one is more brutal, than the other one. They're both the same when it comes to the violence levels.
I think in one of them you get to see Laurie playing with a pig, and in the other one you just get a flashback of Laurie playing with a pig.
Yeah. All right,
Okay.
Manster, who do we got next?
One more thing about the Myers character.
Yeah.
Although I know it was Tyler Mane, as I'm watching it, I just couldn't get out of my head that could be Ryan Hurst.
Yeah, from Sons of Anarchy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it kind of like my head kept putting Ryan Hurst in the role. It was weird. I guess it was probably the beard and the long
The
hair
beard.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we have, as young Michael Myers, Chase Wright Vanek, who was replacing the previous actor from Halloween 1. He was the one that was different, who was Dag Furch in the original. Which
God bless you. That's not how I would have said it. I had no idea how to say that name.
I loved him. And he actually did start filming, but he was too tall and they couldn't deal with the height difference, so they recast him.
His beard got in the way.
I was going to say, like, we see what he grows up to be. What would this height have mattered?
Yeah, well, 2 year. They wanted him to be the same age as he was. Yeah, and this is, you figure filming 2 years later, he probably had, too much height, a little bit too much pubes. He probably talked like this now.
But this guy, Chase Wright Vanek, I mean, he did an okay job of replacing him. He was similar looking, but not quite as evil.
Yeah, he's standard spooky kid.
Yeah. Then you have Scott Taylor Compton as Laurie Strode / Angel Myers.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Yeah, if you haven't seen 1980s Halloween 2 original, this is brand new information to you.
Then you have Sherry Moon Zombie as Deborah Myers, the dead mother.
She's a ghost.
Gets shoehorned into everything.
Yeah.
I mean, she does have a flashback scene early in the movie where she's not a ghost yet.
Yep.
Then you have Brad Dourif as Sheriff Lee Brackett making his return.
Brad Dourif, by the way.
Chucky himself.
Chucky from Deadwood. He's an awesome character actor.
Exorcist 3,
Worm Tongue from the Lord of the Rings movies. I love that they gave him more to do in this movie. It's not necessarily more to do, but it's more like family life stuff. And you just get these little moments with him where him and his daughter. And I like Brad Dourif. So it was a nice little
great seeing him have something to sink his teeth into, even if it's just a little bit more.
Yeah,
there he is over Lloyd's shoulder. Right
yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
By the way, as this movie starts on October 29th, which is my birthday. So,
and then the last recurring character, Danielle Harris as Annie Brackett, Sheriff Lee's daughter, who we met at Horror Fest, CT Horror Fest last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's snazzy.
Yeah, not to sound creepy, but to be creepy. When we left Horror Fest last year, we were walking out. Me, John, and Lou split off from Lloyd, and Lou and John were still in the building, and I went out to Lou's truck to wait for him, and I was standing next to Lou's truck waiting for him, and she came out and stood like a foot or two away from me. She had her kid with her. Right. I remember her having a baby. She stood kind of close to me and was waiting for like one of those like hotel shuttles to pick her up and bring her back to her hotel or the airport or whatever. She smelled really good. I remember that.
Really good.
I remember
even at the end of the day.
Yeah. She, look, we've all been around women that like wear too much perfume or women that, this was one of those cases where like 2 or 3 feet away, I could smell her and it was delightful. And that's all. That's my creepy.
Oh, that's an odd story.
This is not only odd, but this is the story that when my wife, who listens to Pint of Comics, hears it, will invariably go, "So who was this woman that you were smelling?"
This good smelling lady.
I want to look her up and see what she looks like. So yeah, and obviously she has the Halloween connection.
She's just a totally normal looking lady.
Totally
normal. I was going to say, if she does want pictures, make sure to show her pictures of Jamie Lloyd.
Yes,
so she can get real scared.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she was 11 in Halloween. She has the Halloween connection. She was in Halloween 4, as we mentioned, the good Halloween 4 and the shitball Halloween 5. She plays Jamie Lee Curtis's daughter in that in that timeline, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
there are 3 Halloween timelines at this point, at least.
We're technically reviewing the second Halloween 2 of 3 Halloween 2s, because even though they didn't call Halloween 2018 Halloween 2, that is Halloween 2.
It's a sequel to Halloween. Yeah.
Right. Crazy. All right. So the next bunch, I'm just going to name them all off right in a row. You can talk about them afterwards, whichever one you might want to bring up. They're all kind of memorable. All right. So you've got Howard Hessman as Uncle Meat.
Yep.
Howard Hessman being Dr. Johnny Fever from WKRP. Then Dayton Cali as Coroner Hooks from Sons of Anarchy and lots of other stuff. Margot Kidder, who's right behind me.
Right
again,
over your shoulder.
Yeah.
as Barbara Collier. Mark Boone Jr. as Floyd, also from Sons of Anarchy. Octavia Spencer as Nurse Daniels.
Well, actually, Nurse Octavia Daniels.
I was going to say, that's actually one of my notes. I don't know whether her character
What did I say? Did I say something wrong?
No.
You said Nurse Daniels.
Oh, okay. Yeah, her name was Octavia in the movie.
Yeah, because the other nurse says something like Octavia, blah, blah, blah. And I was like,
right.
Is that supposed to be her character's name, or did that actress fuck up?
Yeah, I think she might have just fucked up. It didn't matter. Richard Reel as Buddy the Night Watchman.
Oh,
by the way,
jump to conclusions
might be
guy.
Yes.
Might be my favorite character in this whole movie.
He's so
Chris
earnest.
Hardwick.
He tries so hard.
He is so earnest. That's why I loved him.
Well, and then
Chris Hardwick as David Newman.
he also doesn't exist. So
That's true. That is
Right.
true.
My favorite guy in the movie is a non-entity.
a non-entity. Yeah.
And then Weird Al Yankovic as himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, why is Weird Al in a rated R Halloween movie? That's such an odd choice.
It is a weird choice.
It's not like Weird Al has any history whatsoever of being edgy.
No,
So-
not at all.
He doesn't swear. His music, he doesn't have violent music videos. It's just so odd that he would appear in a Halloween.
Guaranteed Zombie's a huge fan.
Yeah.
And they're
sure.
probably friendly because everybody in Hollywood's friendly. And he probably just said, hey, look, it'd be great to, one of my favorite parts of the whole movie is when Malcolm McDowell's character is sitting down at that talk show with Chris Hardwick and he calls Weird Al weird. He's like, oh, hello.
Yeah.
Hey, Weird.
He goes, hello, weird. And then he goes, Al. He goes, you can just call me Al. Hello, weird.
Yeah, that was good.
All right, we got through the cast. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Let's shift over now to
we didn't do Rotten Tomatoes, did we?
that's where I want to shift to, Lloyd. I'm about to
sorry.
shift
Cut that
over.
right out. Start over.
Lloyd, just
Okay,
like
I'll
Michael
start over.
Myers.
All right, now that we've talked about the cast, why don't we shift over to the Rotten Tomatoes, right? So we talk about this on all these TTT episodes. We talk about Rotten Tomatoes and what exactly this thing scored on this very popular website between audience and critical reviews. Now, we always forget this. I think if a movie
I know
gets...
it. I remember it.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
60.
60. So, Lloyd, explain it to folks out there how this works.
So if a movie gets 60% or higher positive reviews, that is certified fresh, and you get a nice red tomato. If it scores lower than 60%, you get a green splotch of nastiness.
Splotcheroo. All right.
So Halloween 2, let's see. Let's read the write-up here. The critic consensus. Zombie shows flares of vision in the follow-up to his Halloween reboot, but they're smothered by mountains of gore and hackneyed, brutal violence.
I love hackneyed violence. It's my favorite kind of violence.
That's pretty much a bumper sticker of the movie.
Yeah.
Hey,
That's not even like a knock on it, like they're trying to make it. That's the movie. That's what it's supposed to be.
yeah.
All right, so you want the number?
Yeah, let's go. Well, let's go with the critic number first and then what the audience score is.
Well, the critic number was 21%.
Oof.
Yeah, not good. Not good at all. But the audience, they liked it quite a bit more, a little more than double, 45%. So still
Okay.
not even certified fresh. But
All right. So we have a Rotten Tomatoes stinker here. We have a movie that made money, $15 million budget. It ended up making $40 million in the U.S. So it made money, but it didn't make the kind of money they expected for this to make. So let's start digging in a little bit to our likes and dislikes of Halloween 2. Let's start off with things now. Again, I always want to start at positive for a movie that is considered trash. Let's go around and we'll each do a like. I'm going to start this one. All right. Here's my first like of Halloween 2. This movie is, now, if you go into a horror movie, there's different types of horror movies. There are the jump scare ones. There are, the ones that stick in your head for a long time. There, you've got all different levels of what you're looking for in a horror movie. If you're looking for a brutally violent horror movie, this is a movie for you. Michael Myers doesn't fuck around when he kills you in this film, right? He bashes you to death.
There's no fuckery whatsoever.
There's no fuckery. Perfect example. Now, it falls into a pitfall of it being a dream sequence, but when he kills Octavia Spencer, he stabs her 18,000 times.
Yeah, he just mounts her and is just stab.
And his 18,000th is just as brutal as his first.
Yeah.
And just as vicious and fierce.
He doesn't even run out of momentum. He just keeps going. Because you watch that scene, I know what you're talking about, and you're wondering, like, this goes on for some time.
Yeah. I mean, and you're right, Lloyd. His last one isn't any less violent, but he does stop for 1 second, and he looks, and he's got to know she's a fucking red puddle on the ground, and he puts one more in her, like, with all of his goddamn might. But, let's see. He eats a dog. He rips a dog up and eats a dog. Well, what else does he do? He crushes. He puts a guy through a car windshield and then rolls the car over on the guy. Let's see. He slams a stripper's head into a mirror.
Oh, yeah.
About 40 times.
He does a lot of that, slamming bodies. Yeah.
He's big on the wrestling maneuvers. So one of my likes is if you are looking for a brutally violent horror film, and Lloyd's got a scene right over his shoulder that is pretty violent in itself, but this is a brutally violent horror film. Lloyd, what do you...
To go to your point, I'm just going to read you one of my notes. My very first note, not a like or dislike, but abstract, savage, brutal, numbing, sorrowful, surrealistic, pretentious, muddled mix of symbolism and excessive violence.
It is excessive.
That was my thought. I'm like,
they should replace Rotten Tomatoes' thing with that. Just send that into them.
There you go.
Rotten Mansters. All right, Manster, why don't you give it a like? Then we'll move down to Stu.
Like.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to give it, let me see. I like that it went somewhere different. And I mean, you kind of were alluding to this a little in what you were saying, but the first time I watched it, like I said before, I really didn't appreciate it. And then I watched it again. And then I realized, and especially after reading, a little bit of research on it about Rob Zombie could do. He wasn't shackled by the Halloween, franchise. So he was able to just go somewhere with it, and he picked a direction and he went for it. And I appreciate that, whether I liked it or not, whether the symbolism of the white horse and the visions and all that stuff was excessive or not. I appreciate that he went somewhere with it on his own.
So you appreciate the Rob Zombie-ness of this movie.
Sure, yeah, you could say that.
That it's not shackled to John Carpenter's. There's the scene which turns out to be a dream sequence, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit. But there's the dream sequence that is essentially a mini remake of Halloween 2. In a more restrictive environment, that would have been the entire movie. Yeah. Because when you say Halloween 2, 1981, to people, they go, the one in the hospital. Right.
Yeah, the one with the hospital that has 3 employees and everything's dark.
Yeah, the very dark hospital. But yeah, so you're right. He goes a different direction. All right, Stu, give us a like. Give us your first like.
Yeah, my first like for this movie, and in a movie of this overall quality, it would be so easy for this not to be the fact. But I think the acting across the board in this movie is honestly stellar. Like, I think Scout Taylor Compton is wonderful in this. Like, I don't know how many horror movies I've seen where it's like, oh, that's acting scared. like I watched this movie and I was legit wondering, like, was Rob Zombie doing some kind of method directing to this poor girl? Because she legitimately seems terrified throughout it. She's just very frantic. She plays this character exceptionally well. Danielle Harris is excellent as always. Brad Dourif, I love in this movie. I think he's great. And just the transformation he goes through at the end whenever Annie dies, and the shots that you get of him, it's really good, really emotive for this movie where murder is pretty much just a thing that happens. And here it's like there are consequences for this man. And you really feel it. Malcolm McDowell, like I said, I don't know why his character is in this movie, but he's good. And Sherry Moon Zombie, I initially thought, like, boy, she seems really stunted. But then I realized that's because that's not Deborah Myers. That's a psychopath's memory of what his mother was like.
Right.
So I think she's playing a psychopath's version of the mother that he's in love with really well. Like, she just has this air where she's motherly, except a little over-sexualized, and I don't know. She portrays it really well. So I think, like,
she does it in the eyes. Yeah.
So I think all over the board, the acting in this movie is so much better than it really had to have been.
I agree. It's one of my notes. A good lead cast. I put Dourif, Compton, Harris, Malcolm McDowell is good, despite, like you said, he comes across, he plays a really good dickhead.
Yeah, he has nothing to work with in the script, but he gives it his all.
Right. You brought up Dourif. There's a moment in this that I loved at the end when after Annie, his daughter, has been killed brutally, and he's found her body, and he's sitting on like his porch swing at his house where this happened. Mm-hmm. And one of the cops comes up and says to him that I think they tell him that Michael's barricaded, and he just goes, okay. Like, because he's
then what did he say?
Well, he says, so he just says, okay. Because he's like, he's done. Yeah, this guy is a guy that's drive. Like, and then he tells, you better drive, because he is done. Here's a guy that just a year prior almost lost his daughter, right? And oh, by the way, this is also something that's different in the director's cut and the theatrical cut. In the director's cut, it's 2 years after. In the theatrical cut, it's 1 year after.
Oh, okay.
That's why the line when he tells the deputy to go to the house and the deputy says she kicked me in the balls last year or tried to kick me in the balls, that was supposed to be 1 year after Halloween 1.
Right.
But for whatever reason, they pushed it out. And I think it makes sense in the fact that these characters are much more steeped in their PTSD at this point, which was really good. All right, so my next, I just said, good lead cast. I'll kind of move on something that Lloyd said, and this is something that's one of the reviled parts of this movie, and I don't love it. I don't necessarily love the execution, but I like the idea of Michael's specters, of him seeing his mother and himself. Like, his little young self is what's telling him what to do, and the goal of getting to be with his mother and all of that. I like the idea of it. And especially here's my biggest problem is that people seem to hate that, like Larry hates this movie, Scary Larry, and he jokes like, oh, there's a fucking unicorn in it. You don't hear as many people complain in the original Halloweens that all of a sudden Michael becomes an assassin for the Druids. Like, what the fuck is that all about? Like, what was it? The thorn? The thorn. Yeah. He's they tie him into this ritualistic monk society, and
he has an underground lair.
He's got a lair, and they call him out, and there's a guy in a top hat who comes and, is like his handler. So I don't hear as many horror fans get pissy about that. But then they're like, well, he has a fucking horse in this one. Again, I like the idea more than, I guess, the execution at all points, because it does happen a lot in it. But there's some cool things that go along with it. Like that one, and again, if this is director's cut only, I apologize. But that one really weird scene where he ends up in like that pumpkin people dinner. And she's on the table.
Yeah.
Like that was a very cool little like set and a very cool, those creatures looked very cool. So yeah, there's some, there it is right there. He's got it. It's right behind him. Like, that's very cool. That's
Lloyd is synced up very well with us tonight.
it's something out of a fantasy movie. So yeah, so I'm not going to say I love the execution of it all the way through, but I like the idea. I like the fact that he's got something driving him. You know, he's obviously a fucked up dude, and he has a mission, you know, reunite the family. So that's my second like.
It wasn't one of my notes, but I had, in preparation for recording tonight, I had the same thought where it's, this movie does this weird, oh, this is, you know, Michael's thing or whatever. And they did the same thing in part 6. You're 100% right with whether it's the Order of the Thorn or the Thorn or whatever it's called. And I've never really heard, for as much as people crap on 6, I've never really heard that being their problem, that they just gave him an odd origin. But you know, they do complain about that for the zombie movies.
Yeah, big time. All right, Manster, what do you got for another like? By the way, I want to point this out.
All right.
Without saying the movie, Manster and I just recorded another Triple T the other night, and I won't say what movie it was because it's coming out after this. 3 of us with our guest, we could barely get any likes out for that movie.
No.
So the fact that we're actually picking up some steam on Halloween 2 makes me feel much better.
That's right.
Oh, that sounds really sad for that other movie. I'm eager to hear that one now.
All right. So for my number 2, I will go with, well, I already said Buddy in the Guard Shack, so I can't do him.
Great.
He was great. He was so, like you said, genuine. He was a good
And he
guy.
jumped to the wrong conclusion.
He did.
He did.
He got an axe right to the fucking back.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say that was the goddamn best cow crash that I've ever seen.
Cow! Yeah.
Cow? What? Cow? It was
That
filmed
cow was
so
like
well.
that cow was made out of concrete.
Yeah. Well,
I don't
it
think the
did
cow
go flying.
budged. Oh, did it?
Yeah, it went flying. But what a great scene! You know, they're talking about some questionable stuff, and
You mean fucking corpses? Yeah.
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 So
that was a
not that
great
I
scene.
would do it, but I've heard these other 2 meat wagon guys got in trouble.
Dayton Callie was real fun to watch. I forget who the other guy was in that scene.
Richard Brake.
Yeah.
He played Joe Chill in Batman Begins. He played in 31, the not good Rob Zombie thing from a couple years ago. He plays like the antagonist, and he plays in 3 from Hell, the not good Rob Zombie thing from last year. He plays like the replacement character for Sid Haig. So he's become,
yes.
yeah, Foxy or whatever. I just wanted to point one more thing out from that scene you just brought up, Lloyd, with the cow crash, and Dayton Callie gets killed, and Richard Brake is still alive. Richard Brake is doing that weird fucking thing when he's sitting in the passenger seat after the crash, where he's just like moving his mouth over and over again.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, I'm like, well,
Is he paralyzed?
yeah, he's super hurt, and I get it. It's just, I like it. It's actually a very peculiar scene because it's like 40 seconds long of him, just like a close-up of him bleeding out of the mouth and just going, ah. I thought that was an odd choice, maybe a brave choice. I don't know.
Yeah, I felt very true. I mean, that feels like something that, you know, maybe I would do if I was laying there and I couldn't move and I was just trying to move my jaw to see if I could get things running again.
Yeah.
You know, something like that.
I actually like that. All right, Stu, what do you got next?
So my next one, this is going to come across as a backhanded compliment, but it goes to what we were talking about a little bit a minute ago, where like, I think this would have been, both this and the first one would have been better received if they weren't Halloween movies. Like if Rob Zombie just made this as a slasher movie, Rob Zombie slasher movie starring Rob Zombie slasher guy, I think that'd be fine. Like I think these are perfectly acceptable movies. I worry that throwing this classic horror franchise on it did these movies a disservice because you come into it with expectations. You don't expect there to be a unicorn. You don't expect to get 40 minutes in the first movie of a little kid pulling the wings off flies. Like, so I think that it's actually held back by being considered a Halloween movie because you go in like, I already know Michael Myers. Just tell me a Michael Myers story. And Rob Zombie doesn't want to do that.
Right.
He doesn't tell you a Michael Myers story. He tells you a story about a character who should not be called Michael Myers, and the movie would be better for that.
Hey, look, Halloween 2, 2009, has a theory about compliments. It'll take even backhanded ones, all right? So you can say whatever you want.
Hey, John, did I text you? Because Stu makes me remember something, a thought that I had, and I can't remember if I actually texted you or not. I thought I'm talking about the original movie right now, but I thought how would that be received if there never was a Halloween movie by John Carpenter and Rob Zombie came up with this Halloween movie? How would that be received as a modern horror movie?
Okay, you didn't text me that.
I thought I asked you that, but I guess I didn't. Okay,
but that's a good question, and I think it would have been received better than it was, even though the first one made money and people liked it a lot more than they liked this one. Because I'll tell you what people, including myself, did not like about the first Halloween remake. You don't need an origin for Michael Myers, right?
Exactly.
He is literally supposed to just be the shape of evil, born, right? He kills his sister at 6 years old. He doesn't talk for 25 years. He drives. He doesn't talk for 25 years. And then he just wants to kill, right? It's just his urge. That's all he has, right? Now, when you get to the remake, he does what Zombie does, what so many people do, and they have to assign a reason. So very much like in the last Bond movie, Spectre, they took the Blofeld character and Bond, who have throughout Bond's history been like, the antagonists and protagonists, and they made them stepbrothers. There's no reason for that. There was no reason for that. So
spoiler alert.
It's like 5 years old. We have a spoiler warning at the end
right
at
the
beginning of the show.
now.
True.
Yeah. So in either case, I think,
to be fair, somebody coming in to listen to this episode thought, I don't mind if they spoil Halloween 2 for me, but so help me God if they spoil a James Bond.
You better not spoil that 5-year-old James Bond movie.
Personally, I still haven't seen Spectre, and I'm pretty sure I never will. So
yeah, at this point, Lloyd, if you have not seen it, you're not looking to see it.
I'm not looking to see it. Right?
Yeah. Just watch Skyfall again. It's much better. Anyways.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Anyways. I think that there was no reason. And I mean, when you get into it, Halloween 2007 is fucking an hour and 10 minutes of his origin, right? Yeah. It's an hour and 10 minutes of getting inside of his head and learning that he had a stripper mom and his stepdad was abusive to him and his sister's a whore and the kids at school bully him. Not interesting. Now, if that had come out without 78, then you might look at it differently and go, this is
Rob Zombie's interpretation of where serial killers come from. This
correct.
Is Rob Zombie's theory on how evil can fester.
Yep.
No, I 100% agree with you. I think it would have made less money, but I think it would have been better received.
Yep, I agree. I got another like here. Sequels don't always, and Stu alluded to this earlier, sequels don't always show you the full effect of the events of the movie prior on its characters. And this movie does a fucking great job. In a lot of sequels, Laurie would be well-adjusted in college. If you think about Scream, right? I like Scream. They're okay. But after Scream 1, Neve Campbell is in college. Sure, she's a little bit extra cautious, but she's pretty much kind of gotten over it. Laurie is a mental case, and that's PTSD. There's like this great dynamic of her living with Annie, who they are constant reminders to each other of that night. They're the only two that lived. They both got severely fucked up. I like that. I like the fact that the thought was put into it to say these characters have lived through this and they are not the same. And we're going to focus on that. Because, there's as much as there's murdering in this movie and as it amps up towards the end, there's just as many scenes with Laurie talking to somebody about how fucked up she is. And I like that. I do like that. I think that's something that people don't always look at with this movie and maybe get pissed off about, because instead of like 2 scenes of her in the shrink's office, there could have been another scene of Michael Myers, like, I don't know, putting a dude in a suplex and then stabbing him through the heart,
Figure
All right.
4 leg lock, rip off his leg, beat him
Rip
with
his
it.
leg off, put him in the scorpion death hold, abdominal stretch, whatever.
Michael Myers taking people to Suplex City.
I'd like to see him stretching out a little before his moves too.
Yeah.
Limber up, Michael.
He's like, I'm kind of tight. All right, let's go around through you
Well, I gotta
guys
do
one more time. Yep.
My last like. One
Yeah,
more like
no,
for me.
we're gonna go to you, then Stu, then we'll hit dislikes.
All right. So mine kind of encompasses a lot here, but the music that he used, I really like the bands, the songs he used, the way he used the music. I really appreciated that. I am not a fan of the Moody Blues or Nights in White Satin. I've never liked that song, but I really like the way it worked in this film. I like how she's in the hospital, and as far as I can tell, that's the dream part.
Yes.
So she wakes up in the hospital. Moody Blues is playing, right? Nights in White Satin. Like, I don't know what year this is supposed to take place, but I don't know what Nights in White Satin is ever going to play on some random TV screen. But anyway, it's really good. The scene goes on, and then it ends in the guard shack. She's in there's a TV in the guard shack, and it's still playing the same song that she was playing in her room when she woke up. And that's the end of the dream sequence.
Right.
That's when she gets the axe to the chest or whatever it was. They don't actually show it, but that was that framed that dream sequence, that song. So I did like that. I love the band that they call it Psychobilly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was Captain Clegg and the Night Creatures. It's like a rockabilly and punk sort of fusion. They were fun to watch. The songs were fun. The soundtrack is good. The final song, it plays during the credits. It's Love Hurts by Nan Vernon. Such a good version of that song.
Well, that's from the first Halloween, too. They play that same, not the first Halloween, the first Rob Zombie Halloween.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, is the music. Rod Stewart, 10cc, Foghat. Just a lot of good stuff in there.
And Rob Zombie, apparently, right around the same time as this movie, like 09 or 10, produced an album, at least one album, by that, what was it, that rockabilly band at the weird party.
Captain Clegg and the Night Creatures.
That's a real band, and he produced their album, and I have no clue if they're still around, but there's your trivia fact for you for the day. All right, Stu, what is your last like? And then let's start bashing this fucker.
All right, so indulge me here because I have two likes, but they're both tied into the same theme and how this movie relates to the actual Halloween Part 2. So the first half of this, like I guess I will say, is the dream sequence. I love it. I think the dream sequence that is, as you said, the callback to the actual Halloween 2, I think it's great. And as you were saying with horror movies where when you see a character, you think like, oh, like Laurie Strode in the actual Halloween 2, I think she has like a cast. And it's like, oh, all right, well, she didn't go through that much. Laurie Strode in this Halloween 2, she was fucked up from the first one.
Yeah.
And you see the surgery she's going through, and they're like ripping her fingernails off, and her hand is all mangled.
She's got something like on her teeth. Mm-hmm. Like when she's talking at one point, you could see like it's probably like she's missing teeth, and it's like a bridge. Yeah. But like, no, you're right. She's got one of those like halos over her arm.
Yeah.
And, she's fucked up.
No, she is messed up. I mean, there are ramifications to what she went through.
Yeah, I don't know how she's
one.
like navigating that stairwell and not just screaming in pain, but adrenaline kicks in, I guess.
But I thought that whole segment, I mean, Octavia Spencer, it's great to see her in any movie, even in a throwaway role here. And then, Buddy with the guard and her just fleeing from Michael. I think that whole scene was just intense and powerful. And the Nights in White Satin stuff does telegraph to you like, oh, this is just going to be a dream.
Right.
But if you take that out of it, it's so tense and just well done. And the second thing I like relating this to Halloween 2 is in the first Halloween, 1978's John Carpenter's Halloween, there is no mention whatsoever that Laurie could be his sister. That is just something they threw into Halloween 2 that comes out of nowhere. Yep. And I think this whole subplot in this movie with Michael's mother and the horse just coming out of nowhere, because that is not referenced in the first Rob Zombie Halloween at all. I think that's his subtle I don't want to say it's a knock, or maybe it's a callback or a respective shout out to Lori being his sister in the second movie coming out of nowhere. That's his plot point in this movie that just comes out of nowhere, is like all of a sudden Michael's envisioning his mom. Like, hey, we didn't build to this in the first movie, but here it is. You accepted Lori being Michael's sister in the second Halloween. You can accept this.
Yeah. And maybe it was something that he wanted to do in the first movie, and they told him no.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
Then maybe when he came around with this one, maybe again, this is all maybe he said, hey, can we go back to this? That I wanted to do this. You brought up the dream sequence, and there's one bit in the dream sequence. I like the whole thing. I actually do. It's long for a dream sequence. It's weird to have like what I think is like a 12-minute long dream sequence in the middle of a movie or the beginning.
It's good at being that long, because when you hear the Knights in White Satin, it's a very ethereal song, and you think like, oh, I wonder if this is going to be a dream. But then it just goes on for so long that you're like, no, this is happening.
Yeah, see, I didn't wonder that, Stu. I didn't realize that until my second watch. The dream sequence, to me, it did go on long. I wish there would have been, other than the song, I wish there would have been some sort of subtle shift in the lighting or something that would have cued me in, because I was just confused the first time. And after she wakes up, I'm like, all right, that was a dream. And then I'm going back in my mind, well, when did that dream start? And I didn't put it together at that point until I watched it again and noticed the Moody Blues stuff.
I think the other big clue that it's a dream, and I don't know if this is in both versions, again, because I saw the theatrical or the director's cut, is when she ends up in that pit of bodies. When that happens.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, okay, this is not real.
Why does this hospital have a dumpster full of bodies?
Like, why do they have a trash bin full of bodies? Like, this is gross. No, but what I was going to say before was, real quick, was the scene with Octavia Spencer, where she comes out of the room and she's all disoriented, and she turns around and it's just like she has a slice across her face, and she's like panicking and bleeding. I think that's a great scene. It's a great thing that you didn't see what happened. I like that. So let's move on to dislikes.
That to me was similar to, I don't know which, I guess that came first, 2009. The Breaking Bad sequence when Gus Fring comes out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He
with the tie.
Straighten out his tie. You see him from one half, and then it circles around, and you see half his face is gone.
Ba-boom.
Such a good scene.
Yes. Yes, it is. All right, let's move on to our dislikes. I'll start it all. I'll make this one very simple. I started on the other side with you go into horror movies looking for certain things, and I gave this one the check for brutally violent. This movie is not scary at all. There's nothing scary about this movie. There's no real jump scares. There's no real, besides the psychological terror of this guy coming after you, there's not really it's not really built that way. And I think any horror movie should be frightening. Like, there's a couple frightening scenes, like the
dream sequence.
Yeah, the dream sequence. The scene in the bathroom when Annie turns around and he's standing there, you feel her terror. But overall, in a 2-hour movie, there's not a whole lot where, I couldn't picture this being the kind of thing where if I was watching it, holding up the popcorn to my face or anything. There's just none of that. Not scary at all.
There are some scenes, like I said before, Michael Myers is like a sledgehammer in the dark, but he played that so often that you came to expect it, and you knew every time it happened, you knew that was going to happen.
Right.
And it wasn't surprising. It wasn't shocking. You were just waiting for it.
No, absolutely. You're right. It just became more of, like I said, on the other end, it's not going to scare you, but how brutally is he going to fucking beat this person to death?
He's so savage. It was pretty great.
Savage. That's a good word. That's a super good word. All right, Lloyd, first dislike.
I just don't like the way Loomis was written. He was such a douche. He wasn't perfect in the Carpenter movies, and sure, did he kill people? Did he cause the death of people in the street? Yeah, he did. But I don't know. I never saw him as such a douche. So self-centered, and I think he really did want to help Michael. He wanted to learn from Michael. And there was one line, especially when I guess it was his agent or whoever the heck it was, and he said something. She said something to him, and he turned to her and said, "When I want your opinion, I'll beat it out of you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Fuck you, dude."
That's
No,
not the
that
Dr.
just-
Loomis I love.
No, exactly.
The Dr. Loomis I love runs around town ranting about how evil has come.
Right.
Yeah.
I shot him 6 times.
6 times. Now, I have a question because I haven't seen the zombie Halloween one in a few years. Doesn't Michael kill him at the end of the first one, or is this a case of different versions? I thought, doesn't he crush his skull?
He does like the, crush from the WWE, like crushes his skull, but I don't think you ever get the kill shot of him.
Okay.
And I think in the director's cut, although I could be wrong, I think they do like show him still breathing or something.
Okay. All right. I assumed they had to, but I just thought, is this one of those cases where like they kill him, but they bring him back and don't explain it? Like, oh, he didn't die. He was just hurt very bad. But it just seemed to me, I thought I remembered that. All right, Stu, what do you got for a dislike?
So in the original Halloween movies, Michael Myers is the Shape. He is just evil incarnate. And we get into the whole thing like he doesn't need an origin story. That's fine. He's just unstoppable evil. These movies go out of their way to show you like he's a dude. He's just a big, strong, evil guy. Like he grunts whenever he stabs you. He's not silent.
Yeah.
And he walks around without his mask so goddamn fucking much. And Michael Myers should not be doing that. But if you're going to portray it as he's evil, he's big and strong, okay, well, how is he surviving all this shit?
Dog.
He shot him in the head. The 2 hillbilly guys beat the fuck out of him in the middle of a
Dog
field.
meat.
Dog meat.
Yeah. And he's just immortal, and there's no explanation for it.
Yeah, I ate one of my dogs before we recorded tonight, and I feel great.
The strength of 10 Grinches plus 2 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I ate the other one, by the way.
Yeah, no, I ate Indiana, and I gave Echo to Lloyd, and I mean, this morning my ankle hurt. It feels all better. Yeah, I don't know, and I wanted to bring that up. Like, I don't necessarily mind. I kind of like the difference in his look, where he's got the beard and the hair, because he's been surviving in the wilderness, eating dog for 2 years or a year, depending on what version you watch. There's the scene when the hillbillies are beating him up, and like it was just a weird choice, I thought. But like he purposely puts the mask on to kill them,
very dramatically and in slow motion.
Yeah, is that supposed to be like his power totem, or like? Because later on, I mean, he never takes it off again, really, even though it's like ripped open.
Ripped off, yeah.
Yeah, but like he puts it on like I kind of wondered that too. Like, where's this character coming from in terms of like what his motivation is, or what does he believe makes him what he is? Is it the mask? I don't know, because we know from the other movie he always wore masks. Like he made masks, and he was, so maybe this is his kill mask. But I just thought it was funny that, like, as soon as after he gets up from taking, like, the licking of a lifetime, he gets up just enough to put a mask on.
And then he's superpowered. Yeah, like, this movie wants to have it both ways. It wants to present him as this supernatural, unstoppable entity, but it also wants him to just be a guy. And it's like, you can't do both.
Yeah.
You got to pick one, Rob.
Yeah, pick it, Rob. All right.
Pick it.
My next dislike. All right, so not scary at all. Covered that. My next note is Loomis's character is terrible. We covered that. All right. So this is goes along with something I brought up in my likes. Like I said, I like the idea behind the mother and him, like his younger self, guiding him. I do not like the idea that they flash a couple times in this of him and Laurie having like a psychic connection.
The shared visions and stuff.
Yeah. No, that was just fucking stupid. That was like,
I hear you.
Yeah, I did not dig that at all, because I get what you're saying. I get that she's the daughter. He's trying to get to her to kill her, to unite all of them in Michael Myers' heaven, and they're going to be a family again. I get the driving force, but now out of nowhere, like they're starting to see things together. It's very Kylo Ren and Rey Skywalker.
Yeah.
Stupid. And what was that called? Force. What do they call that? Whatever that was called.
I don't remember.
They have like this psychic connection, and I hated it. Every time it happened, I was like,
powerful chest.
Yes, yeah. He's Kylo Ren. She's like, oh, you're looking pretty greasy there. No, it just, I didn't dig that at all. Lloyd, what do you got?
At the end of the movie, he like telekinetically holds her down, and she thinks baby Michael was, and it's just like, he's not Jean Grey.
Mhm.
Do we know that?
And yeah, that's great. That's a great part too, where Loomis is like, "Nobody's holding you. Just get up.
It's all in your mind, Laurie.
You stupid tot."
Fucking Loomis. Wow, we've hit so many of my my dislikes. Let me see. I've got a couple of other things. Yeah, the grunt. Michael doesn't grunt. He's just silent. He's silent. He's evil.
And that goes to ask, does he talk? Because he says "die" to Loomis at the end.
In the director's cut only, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Is it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
in the
we'll have to
theatrical
talk
cut,
about
he
that
doesn't
after.
say that.
Okay.
So let's see. And this kind of, I don't want to go against what Stu said before, because I agree with what he said about
Oh, give it to me. I allow it.
Taylor Scott Thompson, whatever.
Scout Taylor Compton.
Scout Taylor Compton.
Straight out of Scout Taylor Compton.
Right. That she did a good job of acting and being scared and all that. But there were some points in it when she was switching. She was suffering the PTSD and questioning things that she was seeing and whatnot. And then she was like really treating Annie like shit, really, really, really badly. And to me, when I was watching it, I felt like she was acting like a crazy person. I didn't buy her as actually being crazy at that point, but she had to be, because that was the progression of that character. But yeah, I wasn't feeling it.
Okay.
I'm like, she's just being a mean bitch for no reason. I didn't really feel at that point she's totally crazy.
Well, I don't think she was totally crazy yet there. I think she even said it in a line of dialogue, at least in the version I saw, or Annie said it, that they're, like I said earlier, they're literally reminders every day to each other. And they resent each other over the fact that they survived this and they don't know how to deal with it. But yeah, you're right. She does speed from like PTSD to full-blown fucking lunatic pretty quickly as the ending progresses.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's more of what bothered me then.
Yeah.
But there, just something there.
Once they get back from the party and they find Annie dead, she just goes fucking bonkers, berserk, like gone. There's no helping her at that point.
Yeah.
And the director's cut, which we'll talk about the ending to that in a second, solidifies it even more.
I want to say, too, in regards to Lloyd's point there, I think that's another difference between the director's cut and the theatrical cut is the Laurie and Annie dynamic. I don't think, from what I've read, because I've never seen the theatrical cut, I don't believe in the theatrical cut there is nearly as much adversity between them as there is in the director's cut. Or at least in the director's cut, their outrage towards each other is apparently really ramped up.
Yeah, I have seen the theatrical. It's been a while, but I did read the long list of differences.
Yeah.
There is animosity, but a lot of the scenes are extended further in the director's cut to show more hostility.
Mm-hmm.
Right, which Zombie wanted in his cut, the theatrical cut, which he didn't get, because when the director's cut came out, just like all directors do, he said, this is the version that I wanted and not what the studio allowed you to see. So, all right, Stu, what do you got?
This is something where I feel like I'm holding something against Rob Zombie that's just a Rob Zombie staple, and I shouldn't be holding his filmmaking style against him, but I don't like it, so I will. This movie is really grainy looking and really poorly lit, like all the time. And I know horror movies being poorly lit is kind of a thing, but it makes this movie look so much cheaper than I'm sure it actually was. Like, if they give you this much money and what you do with this much money is intentionally make it look like they gave you a tenth of that amount of money, that's dumb. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Use the money for real things, or don't take the money and let it naturally be, grainy and dark and poorly lit. But like, he obviously had a budget for this movie and just elected not to use it, or he spent it all on the aura of light that Mama Myers had.
Yeah, well, that was his wife, so he's got to take care of her. He's got to take care of her.
Like, I just didn't like the way it was shot. Like, there were genuine scenes where, like I said, it just looked grainy. It looked like a 40-year-old movie at points. And then, yeah, the lighting all over the place is just terrible. And I get that, if you're in for a Rob Zombie movie, that's what his movies are going to look like because that's his aesthetic, but it's not for me.
All right. All right. Well, we just did another round. So I think we'll jump off our likes and dislikes. I will say one other thing that I wanted to kind of attach to Lloyd's was I do think the soundtrack is good in this. I like the fact that they use like the rockabilly punk horror rockabilly band and all. But I do think almost, even if you're trying to do your own thing, when you're making a Halloween movie, you got to use the Halloween theme. And
Yeah,
I know.
You said, it didn't feel right. I couldn't fit it in.
It didn't feel right.
Anywhere.
Yeah, and it is in the very end. I think it's the credits or it ends with it. I don't remember it from watching it.
The theatrical cut, it's in the last scene.
Okay, I don't remember it in the director's cut, to be honest with you, at all.
In the director's cut, they flip-flop Love Hurts and Halloween theme. They flip-flop it.
Okay. All right. So that's why I didn't see it, because once it ended, I shut it off. You want to make your own thing, make your own thing. But there are, like, let's say, I'll use a fake number, but there's like 25 movie themes that everybody on Earth probably knows. And Halloween is in there. And so when you have access to, like, if they were to come out tomorrow and say, we're starting the James Bond, we're back to that again, by the way, starting the James Bond franchise off brand new. It's going to be a woman. It's going to be set in Australia and not in the UK. It's going to be totally different, blah, blah, blah. You still better have ba-da, you know what I mean? Like, that's the one thing you better fucking take with you. And to not use the Halloween theme that Stu's wife can't hum is kind of, even an updated version, even a techno version, even something like that, that's a mistake.
Right. Future episode, by the way.
Oh,
Bond.
Top 10 recognizable movie themes.
That's snazzy.
Yeah. All right. We'll do that. Absolutely.
I have a question because it ties into something Lloyd said, and the scene is about to happen behind him. So I know John from the Friday the 13th things, he may be getting mad at me for looking into movies for things that may or may not be there.
Wait, Stu, is Annie pregnant?
She's not pregnant.
That's
She's
right,
not pregnant. Well, the problem is she may actually have been. But so we see here when Annie comes across Michael, she is getting ready to take a bath. She's wearing a robe. Michael chases her around the house and terrorizes her. And then Michael gets her down and is getting ready to do his Michael thing. And Mama Myers shows up and says, all right, this is the time where you can have some fun. And then later on, when we see Annie next, she's naked.
Yeah.
So, and this is a Rob Zombie movie, so I strongly suspect misogyny was heavily written into the script. Do we think?
I took the mother saying have fun as in she got away from you, or she lived last time.
Take your time killing her. Yeah,
take your time. Because when Laurie goes in the room, the walls are covered in blood.
Yeah, but
you are right. Now, she was only wearing a towel or a robe, so eventually that might have come off.
Right,
but,
no, it's ambiguous enough.
No, but I will say I can see your line of thinking and almost wonder, it's like, yeah.
Ugh. I don't want to. Michael Myers can kill and eat dogs, so that's fine. I don't know if I want to live in the world where Michael Myers is also a rapist.
Yeah, yeah, I fully agree.
So I'd like to revisit what we talked about earlier about the two cuts, the director's cut versus the theatrical cut. Because when I saw this movie, I saw it twice, and I didn't realize that I saw two different versions until the end, when I saw them in the shed, and it's two different scenes completely. So I would like to talk a little bit about that.
All right, yeah. So, Stu, do you want to cover what happens in the director's cut?
In the director's cut, Michael has Laurie in the shed. He's got little kid Michael telekinetically holding her down, and Laurie's there, and Dr. Loomis sneaks his way into the shed to save the day. And that's where it starts changing, because in the director's cut, Michael comes at Loomis and chucks him through a wall. And Loomis is still alive at that point. And then they go fighting out into the field that they're in. He stabs Loomis, and then the police shoot Michael down.
Die.
Yeah, he does. Die!
Yeah.
Why did you do that, Rob Zombie? So he does that. Loomis goes down. The cops shoot him down. And then Laurie emerges, just as Laurie, from the shed. goes over to Michael's body, picks up the knife, starts walking over to Loomis and stands over him holding the knife. And I'm not really sure, like, is Loomis not dead? Is that what the movie's telling me, that she's going to finish the job?
It's ambiguous, yeah.
Yeah, it's another ambiguous moment. And then the cops shoot Laurie down. And as she falls, we get kind of this death vision of, I guess, her accepting the mother and the horse to the tune of Love Hurts.
In like the psych ward, right? With the long white hallway.
With the long hallway, yeah. Yeah.
But it's just a death vision there. It's not actually happening to her. It's just like her what she's picturing as she dies.
Okay, so that confused me. All right.
Yeah, it confused me the first time too, but what I read subsequently said that's supposed to be her death vision, not they arrest her and send her to a hospital.
Because that is the same ending.
Yes.
In the theatrical cut. So in the theatrical cut, Loomis goes in the shed, and a lot of the same things, you know, with the mother and Laurie. But Loomis goes up to Michael, and I'm trying to think, did Michael kill him in there?
I think he kills him, and then Laurie impales him on some equipment or something.
When he's up there, you know, with his stabbing pose that he likes so much, and he does get shot, and it was Sheriff. It was Brad Dourif.
Right.
And he shoots him like a sniper through the window multiple times, not just once. And from that gunshot, Michael falls and gets impaled on some sort of shed tool or rake or something or other. And so he's totally impaled. You know, he's got this thing sticking out of him. And then Laurie comes up to him. Don't know what's going on. He's raising the knife. She takes the knife. I think she puts his hands around his head. But then she gets the knife and she just goes to town stabbing him. And then she comes out of the shed wearing the mask and takes the mask off, pretty much just kneels, does not get shot. And then it goes to a future scene of her in the psych ward.
The same scene.
Same scene.
The same exact, yeah.
And the ending in both of them is her in the psych ward seeing the vision of the mother and Michael and the horse, and she smiles. In the director's cut, she's dead and she's going to, you know, be a ghost with them. And I think in the theatrical cut, she's the new Michael Myers. Like she's gonna come back and be the new Shape.
That sure is how it's played out. Yeah.
Yeah.
To the sound, to this Love Hurts.
All right. Before we end up judging this, what?
No, not to Love Hurts. To
in the theatrical cut.
To the theme of Halloween.
Oh, okay. All right. So before we rate this trash, tolerable, or treasure, we got a few friends from the Twitter community who we asked what they thought about this. So I'm going to read off some of their stuff. Some of them are very plain, and some of them are a little bit more in depth. So our buddy Brian at Satanic Panic 81, trash, straight trash. That's all trash. Period is what he put. There is another podcast out there called at The Blood Buddies. It's a horror podcast. I'm friends with them on Twitter. I'm not familiar with their show, but I don't know. I watched it once and thought it was fine. Not something I got angry over or anything. So let's see. Kira, our friend Kira at MT_spaces. The first was tolerable. The second was a fever dream. I know I didn't enjoy it, but I don't remember any of the movie to remember why. That being said, I really did enjoy Tyler Mane as Michael. And our buddy Dino finally from at podcast, he gives a trash exclamation point. Though I think he intended it to be to screw the Weinsteins for jacking around with his budget. And we didn't get into that, but I did read a little bit about how the budget was supposed to be different and they kept changing their minds on that. All right, so let's get to it. I'm going to start with our guest from SWO Productions, Stu World Order. I'm really excited. This is one of those ones I'm excited to hear what we're all going to say. So, Stu, we've just talked about Halloween 2, 2009, longer than anybody, including Rob Zombie, talked about this movie. What do you think, Stu? What T do you assign this film?
So, when I think of trash, there are movies that I hate watching. There are movies that I just watched and I regret all of my life choices that brought me to that point. I don't necessarily hate this movie. And I will go as far as to say it's not the worst Halloween movie. Halloween Resurrection is the worst Halloween movie. I think this might be the second worst Halloween movie, though, and it's just not good. And I watched it the first time. Honestly, I think I just watched this movie for the first time, like within the last month. And when it was over, I thought like, wow, I am actually excited to watch this movie again closer to recording time to see what I think. And then when I watched the second time, I enjoyed it much less. Like, I still think the acting is good and it is the high water point of this movie, but the Deborah Michaels stuff, man, there's no call for that. It just seems so obvious that Rob just wanted to put his wife in another movie. And so, whereas it's a movie I'll watch, I don't hate myself for watching, it's higher end trash.
So Stu hits it with a trash. I'll go second. We'll finish off with the Manster because I'm excited to hear what he has to say. I'm going to go, so I've seen the theatrical cut. I've seen the director's cut. I'm basing this on theatrical cut. I'm going tolerable. This is not something that I'm going to toss in a million times, but I think there's a lot more merit to it than what everybody says. And like I said, when I hear anybody complain about this, it seems to be based on how weird or different it is. And I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that. Because if he had made Halloween 2 for 2 hours in the hospital, then people would complain about how it's the same fucking thing. So he went his way. It didn't work out. Obviously, we know that this line gets stopped here. And, 10 years later, Danny McBride gets to make a movie that was hyped much more and was probably like the same level of enjoyment. With a lot, like the acting isn't as good. There's less good factors in that one. Yeah, you get Jamie Lee Curtis, but that one, I don't know. That movie,
I think it's overrated. I think it's better than this one. Like I said, I think this is the second worst of the franchise. But yeah, I think 2018 is pretty overrated.
Yeah. So I go tolerable. I think this is a decent enough film that you can get some stuff out of, and I like the fact that he went his own way. Manster, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm just going to echo you. It really, because of the good acting, I mean, there are some good performances in it. I do appreciate that he went his own way. He just came up with a thing and he stuck to it. I can't give it trash, because if it was trash, I would pretty much just hate everybody's performances and hate the music and hate everything about it. There's a lot of things not great about it, but I'm going to give it a tolerable.
I think it's my love of slasher films and Halloween in particular that makes this both watchable to me, and yet I hate it even more. Like, I would imagine if I didn't already have a proclivity towards the Halloween franchise, I would think this movie is awful. So that's why I've got to go with trash, but I'll watch it just because it's like, oh, it's Halloween. And it has the, just over Lloyd's shoulder there, it has the MOON spells whatever guy from The Stand.
Yes. And that is also Patrick Starfish from SpongeBob. So, yeah.
Really? I never knew that.
Yep. Same guy. And, so that's been Pint of Comics. This has been your Halloween episode or your Halloween 2 episode. Enjoy the holiday. And once again, before Lloyd gives off our stuff, why don't we go back to Stu and you could tell everybody once again where to find the brand new SWO Productions.
Again, that's at Twitter. It's at SWO Productions, or the website is swoproductions.com. All the thank yous in the world to John for your motivation and constantly telling me to get off my ass and start this shit, and for Lloyd for all the art and everything. I mean, I couldn't have done it without you two. You two are heroes amongst mortals, as I said.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, we love you, Stu. What do you got, Manster? What do you got for Pint of Comics? How do you find those jokers?
Those guys, you can find them at pintocomics.com. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeart, and what's the new one you said? Amazon Podcast?
Amazon Music, yeah.
Ooh.
Yep, check out the YouTube channel. For videos and special Friday the 13th reviews. Facebook and Twitter, it's at Pintocomics. On Instagram, it's at Pint_O_comics. And here's Sir John on the radio. Tune into WESU Middletown, 88.1 FM on Sunday nights from 6:30 to 7:30, or stream the show on WESUFM.org and the TuneIn Radio app.
All right, Manster, put the bullet in this one.
It's over, Johnny. It's over. Nothing is over. Nothing. You just don't turn it off.